15 years ago, Matt and Emily, two elite CIA operatives, were about to embark on a high-stakes mission when Emily did something unexpected. She took a pregnancy test. Then another, and another. 5 tests later, the result was the same, positive. She was pregnant. She looked at Matt, her fiancé and partner, but chose not to say anything just yet. Despite the life-changing news, she knew she had a job to do. They arrived at their mission site in a sleek Benelli car. Not even 5 minutes passed before Matt's phone buzzed. It was Chaka, their superior and close friend. A Benelli? You planning to waste all your money? You need the right tools to blend in. Chaka sighed but let it go. They had bigger things to worry about. Undercover, Matt and Emily infiltrated the lavish party using fake identities. Their target? Balthazar Gore, a former Polish KGB agent turned terrorist. He had obtained control of an industrial control system, ICS, a device capable of manipulating electricity grids and dams. If misused, it could cause catastrophic destruction. Their mission was clear: retrieve the ICS key before it was too late. The problem? The key was locked in Gore's personal safe, which required his fingerprint. Luckily, Gore was hosting his son's birthday party, and Emily used the opportunity to shake hands with him, skillfully lifting his fingerprint in the process. Minutes later, in a hidden vault, the safe clicked open. The ICS key was finally in their hands. But then, beep! An alarm shattered the festive atmosphere. Within seconds, Gore's men stormed in. A vicious fight broke out. Despite the chaos, Matt and Emily fought their way out, barely escaping with their lives, but they weren't safe yet. Their escape plan hinged on an MI6 agent named Baron, who had arranged a plane for them. The catch? Baron was Emily's ex. Tension was thick when they met at the airstrip. Baron's lingering feelings for Emily were obvious, which didn't sit well with Matt, but they had no choice but to trust him. Once aboard, Matt ordered 2 glasses of champagne to celebrate their victory. Emily hesitated. Matt noticed something wrong. Instead of answering, Emily pulled out the 5 positive pregnancy tests and placed them in front of him. Matt's eyes widened. For a moment, he was speechless. Then slowly his expression softened. "We can do this," he said. "We can start a family together." Emily exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. "Our job is dangerous, Matt. Is this really okay?" Matt reached for her hand. "This is what I've been waiting for. A life beyond the missions. A future with you." For the first time in a long time, Emily felt at peace. But then, a nagging feeling crept in. Something wasn't right. She excused herself and headed toward the restroom. Before she could enter, a flight attendant stopped her. "Sorry, ma'am. The restroom is out of order." Emily froze. An 11-hour flight with a non-functional toilet? Her instincts screamed danger. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. Before Emily could react, the officer pointed a gun at her and took her hostage. Matt stood frozen for a moment, confused about what to do. The officer then ordered Emily to take the ICS, but before she could comply, she snapped out of her shock and acted. In the chaos that followed, Matt got into a brutal fight. A fierce confrontation erupted, and that's when Matt realized something chilling. The people attacking them were all working for Gore. Someone had set them up. Suddenly, the other passengers turned on Matt and Emily. A fight broke out in the cramped space of the plane, bullets flying. In the struggle, the pilot was shot. The plane lost control, shaking violently as it plummeted towards the ground. Panic filled the cabin. With no way to regain control, Matt knew they had only one chance. He grabbed the only parachute available and told Emily to take it, to save herself and the child. But Emily refused to leave him behind. At the last moment, she made a split-second decision. Grabbing Matt, she jumped. The parachute deployed just in time, and they drifted towards the ground. As they landed safely, a fiery explosion lit up the night sky. The plane had crashed. Many on board didn't survive. The weight of the moment was overwhelming. They had escaped death, but life as they knew it was over. Looking at each other, they made a silent decision. They couldn't go back. The only option was to disappear. Determined to start over, Matt and Emily destroyed their identities. No contacts, no traceable past. Matt was firm. No reaching out to their best friend Chuck or Emily's mother. He was sure the ICS would never stop looking for them. 15 years passed. Now, Matt and Emily lived in Atlanta, leading a peaceful life with their 2 children, Leo and Alice. To the outside world, they were just an ordinary family. Matt worked as a football coach at Alice's school, and their past remained a well-guarded secret. But secrets don't stay buried forever. Alice and Leo had always sensed something was off. Their parents were hiding things. Whenever they asked, the answers never seemed entirely truthful. Suspicion grew, and then, one day, Alice confronted Matt with a question. "Dad, how did you speak Russian to the guy who fixed our AC the other day?" Matt froze. He covered it up with a casual lie, but Alice could tell something wasn't right. She let it slide, but doubt had already taken root. The next morning, while dropping their kids off at school, Emily casually suggested they go to a movie that evening. Alice shook her head. Not tonight. We have a study group. Leo, meanwhile, was fidgeting with something on his hand. Emily noticed and asked, "What's that new ring you're wearing?" Leo grinned. "Oh, it's a cool gadget. It has Bluetooth and some awesome features." Matt's eyes narrowed slightly, but he let it go. As Alice stepped out of the car, she hurried over to her friends. Among them was James, her boyfriend. Emily, watching from the car, noticed them getting closer. And then, to her shock, Alice and James kissed. Emily's stomach twisted. Without thinking, she grabbed a pair of binoculars and watched them closely. Matt, noticing her reaction, took the binoculars from her and looked as well. Just then, Alice's phone rang. She answered and asked suspiciously, "Haven't you left yet? And why do you have binoculars?" Caught off guard, Matt and Emily scrambled for an excuse. "We were just leaving," they muttered and quickly drove off. They knew they couldn't question Alice there, but the unease lingered. That night, as Alice had planned, she left home, telling them she was going to a study session. But Matt and Emily weren't so sure. Something didn't feel right. And deep down, they both knew this was only the beginning. Emily, who was a bit suspicious about Alice, took her laptop, found the password, opened it, and looked at the chat box. Emily realized from their conversation that Alice had not gone to her friends, but to another place. Emily and Matt immediately left, and their guess was correct. Alice was already there. Emily called Alice to come with her, but Alice refused. At that moment, a person from the club tried to stop them, insulted them, and refused to let them leave. Another person was recording the scene on video. Without hesitation, they tried to take Alice away. The young man causing trouble grabbed Alice's hand and said, "You don't have to go now." Emily hit him, and he fell to the ground. Suddenly, local goons arrived, and a fierce fight broke out. Meanwhile, Matt caught the person recording the video and deleted it from his phone, but unbeknownst to them, others had already taken the footage. As they were leaving with Alice, Emily asked her, "How did you get into this club when you're not 18? "I have a fake ID, Alice replied. But Alice still didn't understand. How had her parents managed to fight off so many goons so easily? They were supposed to be ordinary people. Confused, Alice asked her parents about it. They told her they had learned martial arts. Matt's response, however, sounded like a lie. Alice knew they weren't telling the whole truth and walked away. The next morning, a guest arrived at their house. It was Chuck, their old superior and friend. Matt was surprised. "How did you find us?" Chuck told them he had seen a viral video of the fight at the club. "You need to leave immediately," Chuck warned. "Gore's people must have seen this video too. They will come looking for you." "But that was 15 years ago," Matt protested. "It doesn't matter," Chuck said. "They are still after the ICS key. They believe you have it." "But the ICS key was lost in that plane crash," Matt argued. "We searched the entire area. There was no trace of it." "That doesn't matter," Chuck insisted. "They think you have it. You need to leave before they find you." Chuck then revealed, "Your plane was attacked that day because Baron leaked information to Gore. Baron was the one who betrayed you." Before Chuck could say more, he was shot dead. Gore's mercenary group Volca had arrived. A shootout erupted. Realizing they wouldn't survive if they stayed, Emily and Matt quickly took a car, blinded Volca's men, and escaped. They headed straight to school to pick up their children, but Volca was chasing them. While speeding away, Matt finally told Emily the truth. "When the plane crashed that day," he admitted, "I had the ICS with me." Matt knew that if the device fell into the wrong hands, it would be catastrophic. Corrupt agents were embedded within the agency, and he feared terrorists could exploit it. To prevent this, he had hidden it away. Emily, her voice sharp with concern, asked, "Where is it now?" Matt hesitated for a moment before answering. "It's hidden at your mother's house in England." A tense silence filled the car. Outside, the world moved as usual, but inside, their reality had shifted. The Volca group was still tracking them. They had to act fast. Soon, they reached the school, swiftly picked up Alice and Leo, and headed straight for the airport. The children, confused by the sudden rush, asked, "Where are we going?" "To England," Emily replied. "Your grandmother is there." Alice and Leo exchanged bewildered looks. "Grandmother? We have a grandmother?" They had never heard of her before. At the airport, they used fake passports. The children were unaware, their excitement overshadowing the hidden dangers. As the plane took off, Emily turned to Matt. "Your children will have questions. What if I just tell them the truth?" Matt shook his head. "Not now. Let's take it one step at a time." The moment they landed in England, danger awaited. Baron, a ruthless man working for Gore, was already there with a police unit. Matt had anticipated this. They needed a quick escape. Spotting an unsuspecting family leaving their car, they swiftly took it and drove off. Barron and his men checked the airport records, scrutinizing Matt, Emily, and the children's fake passports. Their pursuit was relentless. On the road, Emily turned to Alice and Leo. "Do not, under any circumstances, use the internet." She discreetly bought a SIM card and snapped it in half before the children could notice. Later, they stopped at a gas station. "Go inside and grab something to eat," Emily told them. As the children wandered into a nearby restaurant, Matt and Emily swiftly took their passports. Inside, Alice and Leo made a shocking discovery. Their passports were fake. Just then, Leo noticed the free Wi-Fi and instinctively connected his phone. Unaware of the danger, he began browsing. A moment later, an alarmed voice called out, "Leo, you just gave away our location." Barron, tracking their online activity, had found them. Minutes later, Gore's men stormed the restaurant, their eyes scanning for Matt and Emily. The air grew thick with tension. Then, chaos erupted. A fierce fight broke out. Chairs crashed, tables overturned, fists flew. In the heat of the moment, Matt and Emily grabbed their children and fled, their car screeching away from the scene. In the back seat, panic overtook Alice and Leo. "Who are you?" Leo demanded. "Why are people trying to kill us? Why did you use fake passports? Are you terrorists?" Their parents remained silent. The road ahead was treacherous, and Barron was right behind them. Thinking fast, Matt unhooked a massive truck from a parked lot, sending it rolling into the road. Tires screeched, metal crunched. The pursuing cars slammed to a halt. The children watched in shock. "Why are the police after us?" Alice asked, her voice trembling. "Why can't you just tell them the truth?" Matt exchanged a glance with Emily. They could no longer keep their secret. Taking a deep breath, Emily finally admitted, "Because we're not just your parents, we're American spies." Silence. Then Alice and Leo's eyes widened, not with fear, but excitement. "Wait, so you're spies?" Their fear melted into amazement. "That's so cool." But the danger wasn't over. They had reached England, but their enemies were closing in, and this was just the beginning. Meanwhile, Matt realized that the internet connection information on their phone matched the data Barron had been tracking. Without wasting time, he grabbed the phone, tossed it into a passing truck, and began tracking its movement. Barron and his team, thinking it was Matt and Emily's location, started following the truck. At the end of their journey, Emily and Matt arrived at an old but grand estate, the home of Emily's mother. They hadn't been there for years, and seeing the massive bungalow brought back memories. As they approached the entrance, Emily's children, looking up at the estate, curiously asked, "Is Grandma from a royal family?" Emily chuckled, shaking her head. "No, my mother was a former secret agent," she said. "A sharpshooter. A sniper." Just then, a gunshot echoed through the air. They turned to see an older but sharp-eyed woman standing on the porch, lowering her rifle. She had just shot a bird in mid-flight. It was none other than Emily's mother, Ginny Curtis. Ginny's eyes locked onto Emily and Matt, her expression unreadable. But Matt knew. She had been aware of their survival all along. He had secretly kept in touch with her over the years. Inside the house, they were soon introduced to Nigel, Ginny's trusted ally. "He's my partner," she said, looking at Emily. Nigel greeted Matt and the children warmly, though his sharp gaze suggested he was always on alert. Meanwhile, Barron had successfully tracked the vehicle they had thrown the phone into. He analyzed the location and quickly deduced that Matt and Emily must be at Emily's mother's house. Without hesitation, he set out with his men. At the same time, another threat was approaching. Gore's men, known as Volka's Menagerie, had also traced them to the estate. Inside, Matt and Emily were discussing their next move when distant gunfire sent a chill down their spines. Rushing to the main hall, they found a horrifying sight. Ginny, Nigel, and the children had been captured, tied up, and held at gunpoint. "Don't do anything reckless," one of Gore's men warned, pressing a gun against Ginny's temple. Matt took a deep breath, raising his hands slightly. "We have the ICSK you're looking for," he said, signaling that he was ready to hand it over. At that moment, something unexpected happened. Chuck entered the scene. Years ago, Chuck had been dismissed from duty after Matt and Emily were presumed dead in a plane crash. The official verdict had been that they were murdered, and Chuck was fired for negligence. That event had fueled his deep resentment, leading him to secretly join forces with Gore and Volka. Until now, Barron had believed that Chuck was trustworthy, but the truth became clear. Chuck had been playing both sides. He had masterfully deceived Barron, making the honest officer seem corrupt while manipulating events from the shadows. Chuck stepped forward, reaching for the ICSK. He inspected it closely, confirming its authenticity. A smirk played on his lips. He had gotten what he wanted without shedding any blood. But he wasn't done yet. "Take them," Chuck ordered. Without hesitation, Gore's men grabbed Emily's children, Aries and Leo, dragging them away. Emily and Matt exchanged a desperate glance. Their children had to be saved at any cost. Determined, they combed through the estate's surveillance footage. Suddenly, something caught their attention. Leo, in the midst of the chaos, had subtly lifted his hand, showing off the smart ring he wore. Matt's eyes lit up. "That ring. We can use it to track them." Without wasting another second, they locked onto the signal and set out on a mission to rescue their children. Their pursuit led them to a heavily guarded building. High walls, security cameras, and armed guards surrounded the perimeter. But Matt and Emily were ready. This wasn't over yet. Matt and Emily skillfully bypassed all security measures and made their way inside the building. At that moment, Chuck was in a high-profile meeting with some wealthy investors, trying to sell the ICS key for an enormous sum. To demonstrate its power, he took a bold step, turning off the electricity for the entire city and manipulating the dam. His audience was left in awe. With the city plunged into darkness, the auction for the ICS key officially began, starting at a staggering $150 billion. Meanwhile, Matt and Emily infiltrated the building from another side. They encountered resistance, but swiftly dealt with the guards standing in their way. After taking them down, they pushed forward. Just then, Barron arrived with a squad of police officers. His entry carried an air of authority, making it seem he was there to arrest them. Barron, however, had been misled. He assumed Matt and Emily were the ones trying to sell the ICS key. But as the truth unraveled, he realized the real villain was Chuck. Without wasting time, they all set out to capture Chuck together. But Chuck, always one step ahead, had already planned his escape. His escape plan? A boat waiting at the dock. What followed was an electrifying chase filled with explosions, high-speed pursuits, and intense combat. Matt and Emily fought their way through, determined to stop Chuck before he got away. After a long, grueling battle, they finally caught up to him. Chuck had already boarded the boat, taking his children with him as hostages. Thinking fast, Matt and Emily grabbed life jackets and threw them toward the kids, urging them to jump into the water. The children hesitated for a moment, but finally leaped into safety. Matt and Emily followed suit, diving into the water just as the boat crashed into a barrier. Within seconds, a massive explosion erupted, engulfing the vessel in flames. Chuck perished in the blast. Rescue teams arrived quickly, pulling Matt, Emily, and the children out of the water. As they caught their breath, the children looked at their parents with deep gratitude. One of them finally spoke, "We don't need any of this anymore. Our old life was more than enough." Days passed, and life slowly returned to normal. At Alice's school, a football match was in progress. The tension was high as Alice stepped forward to take a crucial penalty kick. She took a deep breath, focused, and struck the ball perfectly. It soared past the goalkeeper and straight into the net. The crowd erupted in cheers. Her team had won, and everyone celebrated with pure joy. However, peace never lasts for long. One day, Barron visited Matt and Emily with unsettling news. Despite extensive searches, Chuck's body had not been found. There was a real possibility that he was still alive. That wasn't all. The ICS key was still missing, and Barron needed a new recruit for the mission. But his next request stunned them both. "We need Emily's father to help us," he said. Matt turned to Emily, utterly shocked. He had no idea she even had a father. Emily remained silent, her expression unreadable. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience on edge. The second chapter begins.